Good morning, everybody. There's a hot topic floating around the internet, as there is always, and we just thought, we don't always want to answer and reply, but we thought some of these topics that are going around are essential for patient safety, patient care, patient education, and patient trust, which is very, very near and dear to our hearts.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right in. As some of you might have heard, there was a recent FDA warning with respect to the use of RF microneedling devices. So some of you may be familiar, many of you have likely already had some of these procedures done. There's multiple brands, different laser companies that make these devices. And really the concept is that we use small little microneedles. They penetrate into the depth of the dermis. There's a little bit of release of heat. The heat contracts the tissues. So these devices are mainly used to tighten the skin.
The FDA has a cautionary warning. They did not remove any of these devices from the market, just to educate the public that there could be a little bit of overheating at the zone if it goes too deep into the hypodermis, aka the superficial fat. And we know this to be true. You can superheat or super cool to traumatize that fat layer and then shrink and remove fat. Let's just say that there was lots of different devices providing incremental millimeters of depth into the tissue to hit the target zone. It's very, very important that people get training that they know the skin, they know the different types of skin on the different body areas that we're treating, so that they can tune in the devices to the proper level, so that we're hitting the dermis, the papillary dermis, the reticular dermis, and the zone right where the dermis hits the fat, but not into the fat properly. The FDA warning is a very good, a very safe approach, and a very good cautionary warning.
Exactly. So really with these treatments, what we're trying to say is that precision is everything. You have to be very confident in the precision of your techniques, that the right techniques are being used. And then the flip side of that, so part of it is technique and precision with your technique and making sure that the provider is aware of the type of tissue that they're treating, what is the depth of that area. So we know that that target depth is quite different depending on what area of the body we're treating. So certainly skin around the eyelids is much thinner than skin, let's say, for example, on the lower cheek or areas of the body. That has to be taken into account and the settings have to be altered. So one is precision with treatments and making sure that the provider is well trained and knows what they're doing. And then the second part is actually precision with the device itself. So as you can imagine, these machines, laser machines, radiofrequency machines, there's many on the market made by different manufacturers. I mean, it's sometimes like that category of lasers is like saying a car, right? And as we know, there's so many variables that goes into a car. And these devices are the same. So certain manufacturers, for example, let's take the RF microneedling. Certain devices, you have control over those settings so that the settings are set to 0.1 millimeter increments. Imagine that, 1/10 of a millimeter increment where the target heating is happening. So when we're talking precision and these depths in the skin are so tiny, these kind of differences make the full difference between somebody having a very effective, safe, low downtime, satisfying procedure that helps them get to their goals versus somebody who might have a complication.
The crux of all of this is, how does a consumer, a client, a patient approach this skin treatment, procedural, navigation, knowledgeably, and without fear? We should not be using fear as a tactic to shoo people away. We should be empowering patients to ask the right questions at clinics. Are your medical supervisory staff well trained? Do they have a good track record? Is there a laser safety specialist in the clinic? Do they regularly send their technicians and staff for advanced training? What are the outcomes? There's a lot that goes into asking the right question to seek the right provider. This industry, unfortunately, is very unregulated. There is no regulation or license to buy an energy-based device, whether it be lasers, RF, or anything else, and you don't need any sort of certificate to actually run the machine and provide. So it really is unfortunately up to the consumer to do the questioning. Much like if you had a plumbing problem and it was really complicated, you would want someone who really knew what they were doing and could advise you, or an electrical problem in your house. Like it's critical that these things do not go wrong.
Yeah. Like we said, the problem is that industry is very unregulated. So anyone can buy the machine, and many people are buying machines and they may not even understand the nuances between something that has got a way higher ability to perform and safety profile versus something with less. And the second thing is really anybody can be behind the wheel. There are technicians, unfortunately, out there that take a weekend course and then start doing these treatments. You know, obviously the outcome is going to be different. The other point we wanted to bring up is just getting back to all of these Instagram posts that you might be seeing, is that there's a lot of fear mongering out there.
Fear and sensationalism. It might sound educational, but sometimes the message should be a little bit more on the positive, which, you know, a lot of these messages could say, wow, the FDA is really watching out for us. And thank goodness they have a cautionary warning out there to bring some of these troubles to the forefront, rather than saying there's a caution out there, so it's bad. Don't do it. It's bad.
So we encourage anybody watching to, yes, obviously read this stuff. You should think about it, understand it, but really go one step. Please take the layer beyond and go one step deeper to understand really what is the message here and how can I apply this so I can actually achieve my personal goals rather than following somebody else's agenda.